Welcome to Trekkie and Beyond, a Star Trek podcast. I'm Anika.
And I'm Andrea, and welcome to episode 7 of season 5 of Star Trek Discovery. Erigah. In the Breen language, that means you're basically, they're trying to hunt you to your dead. And so, this episode is all about Moll and L'ak and how both the Breen and the Federation are fighting over them because they're the popular ones. And their love story just sort of shows how they will watch the world burn for each other, which is why they are my favorite couple of Star Trek. Yes. And we also get to see some old friends, some recurring friends, someone who we haven't seen since, she got a little rock on her finger, and Book makes dumb decisions. He tries to until Paul's like, hey, no, get it together. So there's a lot of ups. There are a little bit of downs. There's some sadness, some heartbreak, some fun, some interesting, all wrapped up in this one little episode. So let's talk about it. Monica, initial reactions.
Okay, so Paul and Hugh are my favorite couple of all of Star Trek, but I see where you're going with that. I like the longevity and how they support each other. I see where you're going with it. I learned a lot about this couple, had no idea they're committed to each other through marriage. So that was a big revelation. Throughout this episode, we learned a lot about their just how more about how they work together to get around and how quick-witted Mole is. I was so happy post the last episode that was so bad, so bad. So coming out of that into this is such a pleasure because we're back again to action, suspense, romance. That's my formula for success in drama and Star Trek. So I love this episode. We're able to also connect and learn more about the Breen and their like ruthless civil military. It's giving me a little Star Wars vibe, but like I appreciate the unity within them. And there's such big stakes and big ships and lots of big drama. Oh, Tarina's back and Jett's back. Oh my. So yeah, I love this episode. Such a breath of fresh air from the last one. What do you think about this?
So much better. So much better. Y'all heard me a little sing for the first time, people, because it was so much better. Um, this was an episode. This is a Star Trek episode. This was now, was it perfect? No. But was it like 10, 15 times better than that last thing that they're legally calling an episode? Yes, yes, it was. But this episode, we got to see we get to see Michael sort of grow a little bit more in her captaincy and get more in her like, hey, like I'm talking, like go away from me outside. Which was a little rude, but at the same time, it's like, oh, but at the same time, it's like, oh, I get why you're doing it because you at this moment you're not his friend, you're literally his boss in this moment. So like, yeah, did it seem like, shut your mouth, get out? Did that seem a little like, But do I love her for doing it? Yes. Um, we also see Book just not learning. I don't understand his appeal to Michael anymore. I don't understand any lingering feelings on Michael's part because you're smart. Like Michael, you're growing into who you are. Like you're growing into this really smart captaincy who's like making smart decisions so far this season. Except, agreeing to be a part of last episode. But Book is just continuously he's still grieving. He's like, that's what this is like, and I know, like, I understand, like, his character is still grieving, so he's clinging to anything that can like be some sort of family. But you have to have like the logic to know, just because you have a connection doesn't mean, just because you both have a connection to someone else doesn't mean you two have a connection. And obviously this girl has showed you from the jump she does not give a rat's butt about you, sir. Like, just let it go. um I did not agree with Tilly staying on the ship, but we'll discuss that when it goes. She should have went back to HQ. But it was also just sort of interesting seeing the Breen negotiate. I always viewed them as a shoot first, never ask questions later type of group. So it's very interesting to see them like negotiate in a way where I would have just honestly assumed they would have just like shot everyone to take what they wanted off the ship. Like I just felt like that's more in their character. But it's also been a while since I've seen them on my screen, so maybe I'm just not remembering them correctly. But I definitely expected them to be more shoot first, trigger happy than diplomacy, regardless. But let's get into it. Let's discuss it. The opening scene, Moll and L'ak, because L'ak is sadly injured very gravely from Michael, that they have to do an SOS, which that tells you they're dangerous, like they're scared, because anyone can pick up an SOS, and Starfleet gets them. My main point before I throw it over to Monica for her like in-depth analysis of this opening scene and our beautiful new returning woman who's coming back. Why didn't we see them get captured? Like, I just don't. I would have loved to see. So I'm going to give that ding against them to episode 6. I'm going to say that was a recurrence of episode 6. That was episode 6 fault. That was not episode 7. But I would have loved to see, maybe, I don't know. I would love to see it. Monica, thoughts?
I agree with you because that's part of like this action I would like to see. So they're in like a tractor pull from Rayner's old ship. Mo was just at the point in which she was just trying to use any means necessary to help L'ak get to some sort of safety. And she was hoping a courier would answer the call, but nope, Starfleet did instead, and they got trapped. But she said that she did not want to escape or leave L'ak's presence. She wanted to be by his side throughout. And I think she realized too that you have better strategies and numbers, like with the two of them together. So yeah, Starfleet captured them, and the first, I guess, like the first real clue, that book that was opened up by Fred, the robot.
Like there's so many different expressions of love. Going back to how you said Hugh and Paul are still your favorite couple. There's so many expressions of love, and we've seen so many different types on television itself, and then with Discovery in itself, we've seen so many different types of relationships: passion, heat, lust, intellectual, longevity. I really rarely see this type of love, like almost like a desperate love, and not in a desperate where it's like a bad or it's bad, but it's just like they do not want to exist without the other person near them. And I don't feel like I've ever seen that on Discovery. I've seen where everyone will always put like their job first, and not to say that's bad, but like it's always the hero's love almost that I see on Star Trek and Discovery so far, where the hero will will lose their love to save the world, and not like this desperate, like I cannot exist. I will go to the ends of the earth to like and do whatever I have to do. And I mean, maybe I'm just going through something, but that love between them, it just seems so pure and like it's not innocent. But their love seems pure. Like they truly just love each other. And it's very interesting to see that come through on the screen. The way those actors, and especially the one who's playing L'ak with all that stuff on his face, the way that they are just like showcasing, and like they have to be a couple in real life, because I just don't understand. Like, like how are you? Like you're just good. Get an Emmy. The Emmy goes to you. Like, I believe you're in love. This is why who's my cold dead heart, people. My cold dead heart is awakening for the love of villains. Whew.
I'm loving it. I'm loving seeing this side of you. And this also shows this whole opposites attract thing, but this is really at its foundation core a deep attraction between the two of them, to the point in which I thought that this episode should be like a part 1, and then the next episode to come to be a part 2, because we actually didn't get a clue. So it's sort of a filler, but we learned a lot more about the characters, and this could have been a 2-hour episode within itself.
It really could have. And when L'ak and Moll are like transported into the sick bay, and like everything's like everyone's like swarming around them, and they're trying to figure out how to save him because they don't really know much about Breen physiology. So Hugh is like, I think I'm helping him, not really quite sure. And then Hugh has this conversation with Lark that I honestly is hands down the most romantic line I have ever heard a man say about a woman. And I will just like literally, I am blushing, people, behind this makeup. And because he's like, oh, he's like, it's beautiful that you guys found each other. You love each other despite your differences. And I have to say, that is such a line that you always hear. I love you despite our differences. And Lark's like, no, no, no. Moll loves me because of our differences, not despite them. And it's like, that's why that line made them my favorite couple, because it's like we acknowledge our differences. We don't just say I love you despite them. Like that's a negative. It's like, no, I love you because of our differences. It's like, unlike everyone else who says like they on this show who's like I love you despite all of this other stuff, it's like, no, I love you, this whole person. If you never change, this whole person in front of me is what I love. Everything that you give me, you are the complete package. And that was like, that line was like, you're my favorite couple. You're my favorite couple because you're the only one who loves each other through everything, not because of everything, not because of, no, there's no because. It's, I love you with all of our differences, everything, not despite them, but with them. So
yeah,
that's my soapbox apparently today. That's what I'm stuck on.
So my second strike in this episode, and the first strike was really about the opening scene in the SOS. I would love to have seen the ship that they were on, this shuttle from the ISS Enterprise. But the second one is
sorry. Pause. That is a correction from last episode. Both Monique and I thought it was like a bullet thing, a torpedo. And I know words. And it was actually like a warp ship. So correction from episode 6. Monica, take it away. Sorry.
But in this episode, I miss Dr. Pollack, the other doctor on the ship. And I really like the chemistry between Mabanga and Nurse Chapel in Strange New Worlds. And that helps you to dive in a little deeper to help like research some sort of medical procedure, and it looks like a little bit more is happening when there's two doctors on the scene compared to like just one Dr. Hugh. Now, yes, who can do it all, but I think if there was more medical staff there, it would show also a sense of urgency that Lark's life is very important, not only to this negotiation that's upcoming, but also just to fight off the Breen. Like that's your saving grace right there. So you need him, you need to also like cool other things down. So I don't know. I would just have like as many medical people on that's necessary to help troubleshoot and figure things out. But Hugh came up with an idea based on his previous research to decrease the temperature there. Now he didn't have enough research to learn about the physical state of the body, but he knew that the room needs to be colder. Fuzzy logic there for me.
One thing that I would ding them for in that scene with them being in the medical bay, why would there not be more security?
Yeah.
Like, I would literally have someone there should have been at least 6 people in that room. 2 in the front, 2 on the side, 2 behind. So that way they could not have side conversations. That way she could not stand in front of Lark's hand while he was trying to like do whatever he was doing. They should have been completely surrounded, even though they were in a force field. That's where like science and like logic sometimes they don't match, because like these people, even though I love them, aside, are very dangerous. And you need to respect that they are very dangerous, and don't stop assuming because someone is injured they're not as dangerous. An animal is in its most dangerous spot when it is wounded, because it will do whatever it can to like stop you from injuring it more. Like, it is willing to do anything. You don't touch you. That's why whenever you touch a wounded animal, you have to be very careful that they don't try and hurt you because they're already in pain. Lark knows he literally has nothing to lose at this point, except Moll. But like with him physically, there is nothing. He has nothing left to lose. He is dangerous. He's injured. He knows he can die. Why would you not think he would try anything and everything to save the woman that he loved? He's already proven how far he'll go for her.
Yes, and lock the door so no one else could leave. Like, no, everybody that's in there is trapped in there. So, yeah. Like, she should have just been able to walk out. I don't get this.
But one of the big things in this conversation that's happening on this episode is the Breen also picked up the SOS, and they are headed directly towards the ship. And at this time, I don't think Starfleet, correct me if I'm wrong, from the way I watched it, I don't think Starfleet understands how important Lark is to the Breen. They know that he has like the blood. Even though we saw the flashbacks, there's no reason to believe they know anything about the flashback. And so they don't know that he's he is of the royal bloodline. So they just know that, oh, there's a blood bounty on him, but not that he's the emperor's like nephew or a direct descendant of the emperor or the deceased emperor. And so they don't understand how important he is. And so during this conversation, you see everyone is like has phasers ready. They're all like, it's almost a reminiscent of like an action movie. Everyone's loading their weapon, putting in bullets, like we're about to have a standoff. We don't know what's going to happen. Everyone make sure you're ready. Tilly is like fixing her phaser as she's trying to head to headquarters. And Paul's like, we need you here. And I'm like, Paul, in this case, you should have let her go. Like, I would have put her with her students. I understand the importance of trying to solve the puzzle, but I definitely would have put her with her students at that moment because they're children. Like, I know they're adults. I know they're in college, quote unquote, or like in boot camp, but they're children. She has history. She has knowledge. She has all this. She's their teacher. Like, she can help them and guide them through this really rough time or scary time that could possibly happen. So I would have let her go off. Would you have let her go off, or would you want her to stay with Paul?
I would want her to stay because also she's a really good troubleshooter. And I think Paul was thinking about the clue and help figuring this metal library card thing out while everyone else is wearing like just in survival mode. He wanted to help them project off to the next room to also, I think, protect the progenitor's tech. And I think he's passionate about this also because he wanted more. He started off the season, I think also the end of last season, talking about how much more he wanted in life. He wanted to do more like research. He's kind of tired. He's in limbo. And so this is the ultimate challenge here. And he's really stepped up. I felt like he was like the number one on the ship while Raynor and Michael were away at the headquarters.
Speaking of Michael and Raynor, during the whole initial negotiation, or not initial negotiation, but like initial talks with everyone before the Breen come, Michael has a moment with Raynor where she's like, go wait for me outside. And I cannot help but see season 1 Michael and Raynor right now. Like, I cannot help but see a man driven by his experiences in the past for why he's acting the way that he is. And I feel like that's why Michael gives him so much grace, because like how he is reacting with a lot of stuff is how she reacted to a lot of stuff in season 1. Not necessarily the same scenarios, but the very, very similar. And it's almost like when like you have a kid and you're like, that, see, God's giving back to you what you gave to me. When you have a kid who's like has your exact attitude and everything, and it's like, Michael, you are looking at your child right now, like, because you are old enough to be that man's great 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 grandma if you ever had kids, like, who knows? Like, that man's your son, because he is literally acting how you did, and it's very similar to how you did in episode 1, and through early season 1, because, like, for her it was just like, for Reno, we find out that he has history with the Breen, and it's a very traumatic, horrible, just devastating history with the Breen. They used his home planet as an outpost. They destroyed it. They killed people. He is the only person left of his family because the emperor or the leader was impressed by his fighting. And that's like, are you serious? Like, to me, that seemed like it was like a pet. You put on a good show, dance for me, and so I can understand his wanting to just destroy them. Like, don't even ask questions. Destroy. Shoot first. Don't ask questions. But, like, at the same time, you have to remember you're working with the agency that never shoots first, or they try to never shoot first. And is that not episode 1 and 2 of season 1? With the Klingons and Michael? She's like, you got to shoot first. You have to shoot first. It's like, we never shoot first. And so it's just like, that entire episode, that entire scene, I was like, all right, little Michael Jr., like,
Michael was just bored ahead of her time.
So it was, I did like how she connected with him afterwards. It's just like, I had to do some research, and I understand why you hate them the way that you do. But she also sort of helps check him in a more one-on-one manner, which, in my opinion, sometimes I'm a great believer in, if you embarrass someone publicly, you gotta, like, respond in the equal proportion unless they say no. And not necessarily like she embarrassed him, but don't acknowledge that he has good ideas in private if you refuse to acknowledge him in public, refuse to, like, acknowledge it in public. So those are my thoughts about that situation.
I have 2 thoughts about that. I remember back a few episodes when Rayner was criticized by Michael for cutting off Reese and wanting to take direction, didn't want to support brainstorming. But I felt like when Michael was in around, like, her superiors is like, oh, Rayner, just be quiet. Like, so yes, you have to understand the group that you're in and the rank, but it was just interesting how that table had turned. And she's like, oh, go outside. I'll speak with you later. So it was just interesting how that took place. And then also, I feel as though both Book and Rayner are segments of Michael at different times in the last 4 seasons.
They are.
Like, they're mirror of her, but just, like, in a male form and at different levels of stress and anxiety. But now she's facing them, and she's having a hard time dealing with that because it's also herself. And yeah, it's hard for us to deal with micro versions of ourselves.
Where we left off, and the Breen are about to arrive on the ship for this never heard of, for at least me, I could be wrong, let me know in the comments, so a discussion of why Moll and L'ak are not being handed over. Now, we got to give credit where credit is due, and some bad bitch energy, because Miss Lady Queen of Navarre, not queen, but I'm calling her my queen right now, and you know how I feel about her. She's like, nah, we're not handing them over. She does a great negotiation in the very beginning. That woman is not to be trifled with. We get a little nod to Saru at some point. She's like, oh yeah, and Saru, he out there, and there's like, he's near the Breen space, She is not to be trifled with, and I'm very proud to call her my queen at the moment. And I know she's not a queen. Don't say in the comments that she's not a queen. I know. But she's my queen right now. And as they are coming, and as Michael is sort of understanding that this is a lot bigger than just having 2 people who defied Breen law or an order, she goes to discuss and figure out what the heck is actually going on. Why do they really want Moll and L'ak? and she's able to determine from Lark's literally saying nothing, but just from Moll's reaction to her words, that Lark is royalty to the Breen. And because the Breen is in somewhat of a civil war, uh, whoever has Lark has a rightful claim to the throne, which doesn't make sense to me, because wouldn't that mean Lark has the rightful claim to the throne? But whatever, because he's the direct descendant, but his uncle is not. So why does is it his uncle on his daddy's side? Like, and he's royalty on his mama's side? Like, what was that? Because, I mean, if Lark, why are you not running? If you are the reason he could claim the throne legally, why can't Lark just claim the throne? Which I didn't understand that part. But Michael realizes, oh my gosh, this is not going to end without them getting his way. Like, it's without the Breen. Like, she understands there's nothing they can give to say, you can have this instead. There's nothing they want more than his body. And that puts the stakes up a little bit higher. But then we see the Breen come, and they have a conversation. Doesn't really go anywhere. A lot of back and forth. And then this is when Lark ends up like injuring himself worse, which is why you should have security all around the room, because you shouldn't be able to have these side conversations. And also, is there not a mic in there in the med bay at the table to like enlarge anything they say? Why would you let them whisper? Neither here nor there. And Michael comes in and she's like, I'm going to get you a Breen doctor, which in my brain was dumb. But up until this point, Monica, before we get too far in, what did you think of like the early negotiations and our queen speaking?
Well, if I start with President Tarina, I just want to say that I love her power suit. It's a blue structured suit. The costume designer for her is always on point. I love that look for her. And she definitely is a bluffing wizard. Like, I would not want to play chess with her. So she had very little information. There were no backup ships. There was nothing for Sarly, and she was able to make the Breen think that she had worked out a deal with another Breen patriarch, and that like they're gonna get in trouble. Like, it was just the way she structured that, and she just kept negotiating and buying more time, getting a more hour. Michael, you got an hour to figure this out, and meanwhile she just kept going. And it's amazing to me that that the president of United Federation of Planets wasn't there for this important negotiation, couldn't use this beaming technology that Kovich uses in this white space to relay messages or anything. Like, this is your career making moment, and President L'ak was not there. She's missing in action, and it makes you wonder. Also, there's no VP, there's no one else. Thank goodness President Torino is there. I think that she should become president of United Planets of United Federation of Planets, because she has shown the leadership skills that I did not see last season with President L'ak. And so I'm glad to see, once again, a female character in this role. Confident as all get out. So that's the good side. On the bad, I'm disappointed in the Section 31 that Non controls, or Non is the chief of security for, because back to our part one of this segment, she should have definitely have had more security there. And
yes, 100%, yes.
And I just want to bring up Non again, because Non was part of Discovery a few seasons ago, and she was from the previous journey over into this timeline. So there's a connection there between her and Michael and the rest of the crew. And she told Michael, "I got this. You know I got this." Well, I'm sorry, you didn't. You didn't have this. You dropped the ball on this in so many ways. So I'm disappointed in Non, and I'm proud of Tarina.
Um, our queen, President Tarina. She earned my love this episode. She earned my love. She didn't need it, but she earned it. Because she doesn't care. She's like, I didn't need this. Like, she's literally the only person really from Navarre that we're seeing this in the last couple of seasons. After like the whole burn season, which we don't speak about anymore. But she's like really been the only person from Navarre that we've seen on a regular basis. And she is, besides her her lackey, who we don't like. She is very much showing why she's the president, and why Navarre is not trifled with, and why no one is trifling with Navarre. Because I agree, I wouldn't want to play poker with this woman. I don't know how to play poker, and I feel like she would lie to me so she would win. And I would believe her. I would lose, and I would thank her for it, because she held true to like nothing, and nothing cracked. And I know Vulcans are very, very well put together. They're very well like structured. And there's a lot of how Michael was in season 1, and then we've seen her embrace her more human side as the seasons have. She is only human, but embrace the human in her later in the seasons. But it's very, that woman is a Vulcan, a Navarrian through and through, and I am very proud of her in this episode. Like I will admit, the science time when she'd be talking, her and Saru have their little geek outs, it always went over my head. I was just like, I'm so sorry, honey. I got nothing. I have to apologize. I formally apologize to this woman. She showed me why Saru bowed down to this woman. Like, she showed me. I get it. I get what Saru sees now. Woman, I get it. Still love Moll and L'ak more, but I get it. I understand. I'm starting to see it. My eyes have been opened, everyone. So cutting over to books trying to feel like needed. And that is a horrible place to be in. And the time when someone is anxious and wants to feel needed, you can't always give in to that, because you don't know, while their intentions may be good, you don't know if the outcome is going to be worth it, or if the outcome is going to be like the road to hell is paved with good intentions. There's a reason that saying is that there's a reason that is a saying, because book, you could want to help all you want, but everything you have shown has shown us that you will compromise this mission to save someone who will shoot you in the back. No, she's not going to shoot you in the back. She's going to shoot you face to face because she does not care about you. And you're going to risk everyone's life for a future that Michael and Reno have seen, and they're afraid of, because it is a horrible future. And you're still like not getting it. I would have honestly confined him to quarters, or I would have sent him to I would have gotten him away from the Breen and Moll. The moment Moll was on the ship, book had to go. Because when someone is anxious, and when someone is like nervous like he is, and has all this like nervous energy, I just want to help. You can help by not getting in the way. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. But you can help by not getting in the way. And book, you have not healed yet. You are still grieving, because you are desperate for a connection, and it is dangerous. But we also see Paul checking him when Book's trying to run. And he's like, this is more important. We literally are fighting against the clock right now to like get this thing figured out get this clue figured out before the Breen kill everyone on the ship. Like, we are running against the clock. We do not have time for you to go run off, which honestly was a breath of fresh air to see someone do this. Because how many times has this happened on this show where someone's in the middle of something and they get sidetracked by like, oh, I have to go help. But we're in the middle of something. I know, but they need me. But we're in the middle of something. And so it was really nice to see Paul check Book to be like, hey, no, stay here. This is more important. We need to figure out this clue. He did it to Tilly earlier. He did it to Book this time. Because Paul is like, look, I'm trying to have a life outside this place. And the only way that's going to happen, because Paul also saw the future. So, like, he's like, look, I'm trying to have a life. We got to figure out this clue first. So, what did you think about those side scenes before we discuss the crux and the end of this episode?
So, Book have to also remember that he's in a work release program, similar to the work release program that Michael is in, but he was sentenced and he's an outcast, and he's also the only, far as we know, person of his civilization that's left. And so he wants to feel as though he can help, and he feels as though Moll is his connection to help. He's not reading the room. We've talked about this over the last, 5 episodes in the season.
It's like beating a dead horse.
Yes, but his skill set was needed to help read this library card. Now, I don't really understand how you can add feelings to like a piece of metal like that, but he was able to use his telekinetic powers to communicate some feelings, the name of this library that they have to go to next, and what the area looks like now compared to the way the area. I mean, the library was in a different place because it moves every like 50 years. So how did he know that it was in this like?
So I'm gonna be honest. That whole part of the episode felt like a fever dream to me, and I wasn't quite sure I actually even saw it. So the fact that you're repeating that to me, I'm just like, oh, that actually did happen. That I'm just over here spinning my hair because I was like, I thought that was a fever dream. She saw that too, because that made no sense to me. So I thought maybe I was crazy.
So I don't know if the Starfleet community that's hot that hid all the progenitor texts all across the galaxy is purposely like distributing all of these clues amongst different civilizations that you have to like work, because it's, you have to learn about Trill. You got to use someone from Trill. You got to use someone, a Betazoid. You got to use like all of these different cultures. So you have to have connections there. And good thing they had someone on the ship that could read this ordinary object that looks ordinary, that we find out really has a lot more meaning behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So
and then he runs off to go after Moll again.
So one more thing before we get to the real meat of this ending of the story.
Yeah.
So also, who knew that Jett like had so much knowledge? Worked at, may or may
this
not.
This is Jett's world, and we're just living in it.
Every time she worked in the archive, was a bartender at it for a time. Like Jett's been living her best life. Just
every time Jett comes onto our screen, she's just like, I'm here to just dump greatness at you guys. Just throw it at your faces, and I'm just going to walk away. And it's like, okay, Jett, I thank you for that. Like, thank you for just dumping that greatness on me. Like, these little nuggets of knowledge. Thank you. What?
And lightheartedness, right? So there was a time in which Adira said, oh, Jett, you get around. And like, then she caught herself, she's like, oh, I didn't mean it like that. And Jett was like, well, actually I do. But it's that kind of energy that I loved. And I love in a series.
Jett, every time I don't think I've ever truly been disappointed to see Jett on my screen. She is, it's almost like she's comedic timing, but she's like neat, like it's never wasted. Mm-hmm. Every time she opens her mouth, it's like they pay her per word. So it's like they got to make every word count that comes out of her mouth.
Yes, and she was multitasking. Like, she was talking to them and still doing her job. She didn't just stop and talk like Book and Paul all the time and sitting there thinking. No, Jett is always doing something.
But then we go back to the rest of this episode, and where we learn the biggest fact of this episode. When Michael is called out of the negotiations and she sees that Lark is literally about to die, she goes back and brings back some Breen people to try and save him. And sadly, and so while Book and Nan are trying to get Moll, they tell her that he's about to die. And so, like, if you want to be with him before he dies, you need to go now. And that tells me how much she loves him, because she goes back with all the Breen there and it's like hugging him, like talking to him, and just like he dies. This man sacrificed himself so she could try and escape, and she ended up coming back just to be with him as he died. And that was, I didn't cry because I'm a G, but I was close to it because I'm not always a G. So my this couple is raising my cold dead heart, people. Raising my cold dead heart. And while he's like, after like Lark dies, the Breen, his uncle's like, you let my nephew die. This is your fault. And he's like, no, he did to himself. Like, he did this himself. So like Moll could try to escape. And I have to say, I totally get what the Breen said. He was like, how we got here doesn't matter. What only matters is the result. And that's so true. And it goes back to what I said earlier, even though I saw the episode first, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It doesn't matter what got us to this point. We are here. I told you what would happen if my nephew died. And they still want to take the body because the body still gives them the leverage of having the pure blood line of the emperor. And Moll gives us the biggest, like, this shocker of the season so far, and she is married to Lark in their custom. She has the brand, and because of that, they have to take her too. And it's like, even in death, she didn't want to be separated from the man that she loved, which I found very, just like, it's love. It's maybe not healthy all the time, but it's love. And then I hated her because she told them about the clue. And I'm gonna be super honest. If I knew there was nothing they could do to stop her, but short of like stunning her, and that could have like caused the Breen to react, and there could have been a whole fight and all this stuff. Like, there was literally no way they could have stopped her without attacking her. And then what would have stopped the Breen from saying, well, we want her too, and she would have told them later? It was just like, you're literally standing on the Federation ship, throwing them under the bus in front of the Breen, and they can't stop you because the only way to stop you was literally put their hands on you or to like stun you, and there's no way the Breen would not view that as an attack. You know? So it's like, Moll, I loved you, girl. Like, you were bad. You needed help. You needed Jesus. But honey, you threw, like, I mean, like I said, she was never going to shoot Book in the back. She was going to do it straight to your face.
Do you think she's doing this because she thinks that she can use the progenitor's tech to bring Lark back to life?
100%. I never doubted it for a second. She wants to use the tech to bring Lark back. That is exactly what she wants.
I'm surprised Michael allowed Moll to share so much of this information.
And that's why I was like, it had to be because they all realized to draw their phasers and to shoot her, because how would you have stopped her? Because if she wants to go with the Breen, she's going to tell them. If you try and talk over her, they're going to be like, shut up and let her speak. It's like, there was no way to stop her without intriguing them more about what she was about to say. And so it's like, she literally just, like, how, like, because even I was like, someone shut her up.
Right. Yes.
How do you stop her? How do you stop her without piquing their interest more, without it turning into a full out? Because if you're in like a standoff,
yeah,
and someone pulls a weapon to shoot someone else, all you saw was a weapon got shot. You don't realize it was to someone who was like, you're so focused, your tunnel vision, You see a shot coming, you think that's coming at you.
Right.
There's no way the Breen, who were like had their spears ready to go, never put them things down, was not think that was not a declaration of war. I like, in my mind, there was no way for them to stop her without, like, how do you stop her? Because I was screaming, shut up, someone shut her up. But how? I
I
thought
don't
it was
know.
this.
I think she was desperate, and she thinks and tries to pivot as quickly on her feet as possible. But now we're starting to see that she doesn't quite know what she's doing. She's just grasping at any type of straw as possible. But this could be put her in a worse situation because, as Rayner said, the Breen have no ethics. Like, like you could be going to the into a worse fire. At least in a federation, you know that they'll forgive you and you'll get a work release. Like,
You get 3 hots in a cot, or at the very least, you get 3 hots in a cot for the rest of your life. Safe.
right? And there's a reason why L'ak left. He gave up his position. Do you want to get sucked into that when he was trying to leave that? I don't know.
So yeah, I definitely agree with your earlier point that she's only doing this to hope that they get the technology to steal it to bring L'ak back. That's the only way this makes sense, because I'm gonna be super honest. I ain't following your body to hell. Like, I'm not. I love you. I will be heartbroken. I will hug you as you are like, I'm so sorry. I will do what my mom did to my dad, and I will hug his body in the casket one last time before they close it and seal it. I will do all of that, but I ain't following you down to that ground. I'll see you when it's my turn. So L'ak, Moll, I would have stayed with Starfleet. I would have let them take L'ak's body, because you don't know if they actually need the body to bring him back. So it's like, if you could create life, you can create a body, in my mind. So you could just create a new L'ak. Look, a new model. Still smells fresh and new. So like, I would have stayed with Starfleet and then took my chances of escaping once they got the final clue, because Starfleet was so stupid they would trust her. I'm like, she's gonna help us get this, and she's like, ha 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 ha. I have it because y'all trusted me, because Book trusted me because he's an idiot, and then I have it. Look what I have. I have a shiny thing. Here's L'ak, new and improved, bigger package. So So those are my thoughts.
So now Discovery is off to go to the library. Meanwhile, oh,
I just have to say, I'm so sorry. You just going into that point reminded me of, it was so anticlimactic almost.
yeah.
Like, I definitely did not expect the ending to end the way that it did. It was almost like this entire episode was like, oh, well, we're on to another one. Let's fly. And it's like, wait, did what just happen not happen? Like, how is this? Are you guys not? Was that a fever dream? Like, I just feel like the whole stakes, while it's so much higher, seemed so low when the episode ended. Was that just me?
No, it wasn't just you. That's why I said this could have been a 2-hour episode. I feel like this next episode is going to be the second half of this. It should be like part 1 and part 2, because we have to see the Breen and Moll again. The paths are going to collide at some point. We don't know when, but this was kind of like a filler episode, because in the stakes of getting the clues, we found out how to get to our next destination, and more information, but we didn't get another clue. So it sounds like there's just one clue left, and who knows if that clue has like nested clues in it. So, but I'm eager to get to the library, and I'm eager to see how this all unfolds for Moll and the Breen, because now there's a chase with three kind of different groups that's interested in this progenitor, this tech.
And to be super honest, I definitely need the Discovery to have like 2 more ships with them at all time, because with the Breen, so there is a size difference in the ships. And granted, sometimes being small and crafty is good. I do think they need more ships. Like they need an escort as well. And I know not everyone can jump like Discovery can, and they can just go black alert and jump. But there needs to be, oh, we're headed here, send ships there to like meet us or something. Like there needs to be something else that is done to make sure they're not alone, because that's such a huge target to be on their back, and this huge ship after them and no like help. That's why it just seemed so. I feel like at the end of this episode, it was almost so much like, oh, well, that happened, and like on to the next thing, and it's just like, or hear me out. Those 2 ships that arrived, stay with you guys, and you warp everywhere, because it's safer in numbers than by yourself. And if something happens, someone can maybe break off and go get more help if like you're getting killed. Like I don't know. I just think more than one ship is needed.
Also, other people could have picked up that SOS, this call, and now they're hopping around enough to get all of these other clues that this is spreading, that like there's that they're looking for the tech. I feel like this is not a secret anymore. A secret mission. So therefore the threat is bigger, that there could be someone on the inside that's also sharing this information with the Romulan or someone else.
So that's this episode. Any final thoughts, Monica, before we sign off?
Moll is amazing character development there. I'm scared of the wrath of Moll. She has nothing to lose.
Oh, they have no idea what Moll is without L'ak. After loving him, after losing him, Moll is gonna go crazy, and I'm here for every second of it.
Yeah. Okay. This is exciting season. Loving it.
And fingers crossed. I really want L'ak to come back, even though he's gonna be sitting in a cell. Their love deserves to live on. So please help a sister out. Let me believe in love. So as always, I'm Andrea.
And I'm Anika.
And live long and prosper.